Real life stories are a great way to understand why some people who never expected to fall on hard times do and manage to get themselves out of the mess, pick up the pieces, and find some peace and happiness once again. Carmel Joy has been there, done that. Today she is a happily married, financially secure woman with a beautiful blended family, but it has not always been so. It is my pleasure to welcome Carmel Joy to Studio 4 to tell us more. Great last name, Joy, because you found joy.
Yes.
Yeah. But as I said, wasn't always so. So take me back to the beginning, the Cinderella story.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to tell me everything, but you meet a boy.
Yep. Met a boy in high school, and everything seemed like it was going on the great path. And we moved in together. He was in college, and I was working, and we progressed. We got married, bought a house, and then decided to have our children. We had them quite quick. We had 4 boys in 5 years.
4 boys in 5 years?
Yeah. So
really,
it was pretty fast.
That's a test.
And everything was great. We had filled our lives with school, sports for the kids, family events, and you know, it was just what you would always dream of.
So kind of father knows best.
Yep. And you know, his career progressed, and we were quite happy. We were doing everything that you always figured that's the way life was going to go.
And he didn't come from a hard scrabble beginning or anything.
I thought he came from just the perfect family. It was the white picket fence. It was everything, right? And I was overwhelmed by his family. I was thinking, wow, this is so great. And after 14 years together, things changed.
What changed?
Like in marriages, there's difficulties, and we had our difficulties, and the arguments got more intense. There was periods where he would be gone for days. There was drinking and drugs, and it just started to be crazy, a crazy life, and it went on for a while until finally he left, and
just disappeared.
We got to the point where it's like, this can't keep going.
Right.
I can't live this way, you can't live this way. And shielding the kids from the craziness was very difficult.
Sure.
And I thought at that point that, oh, this is going to be easy, a lot more calmer now that he's gone, and we'll be able to, move on and work through our problems and be a separated couple and together raise our children. That didn't happen.
And part of being a separated couple, if it works out, is support, financial support.
Yeah.
None there?
None there.
Nothing.
It was really difficult. The money just started disappearing. Accounts were closed, and credit cards were racked up, and lines of credits, and the mortgage wasn't getting paid. So a lot of this stuff was unknown to me because I focused on the children and the home and that type of stuff.
Sure.
And I had to learn all that. I had to understand what was happening. And I was starting to get phone calls from creditors and stuff like that. And at the beginning, the first little while, he was paying support. And then it just stopped after a few months. And I remember phoning his boss, and his boss let me know that they had let him go. So
now he's jobless.
He's yes.
No money coming in. And did you have any family that could pick you up?
Not
for a little while?
Necessarily.
Temporarily?
I mean, help with the kids, but nobody had the money to feed and clothe and shelter us.
Exactly.
That was in my family. Yeah.
Expensive.
So my next route, and I still had I had a part-time cashier job that I had kept from when I was younger, and so I was still doing that, but that was getting more increasingly difficult.
Well, and by the time you pay for daycare?
Daycare, yeah. I couldn't find daycare for
No, so
4
you're
kids.
part of the working poor.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
When did you go to the food bank first time? Not the year, but what prompted it?
Well, actually it was when I went to income assistance to ask for help, which was one of the most two of the most difficult things.
I bet.
That and going to the food bank were really, really hard to accept and do. Going to ask for assistance was so hard to be where you're, you know, you've got this loving family and this great life and everything, and very, very quickly, it just quickly go away, and all of a sudden now you're standing in this lineup and you're asking for assistance. Mm-hmm. What I was told that what I would receive for assistance, I was like, how am I going to live on that? Like, back then it was $950 a month to feed,
for 4
clothing,
boys and you,
and shelter.
And shelter.
And I was like, I can't do that, right? How can I do that? That's rent. That's
right. And if you work.
And then if I worked, they said then every dollar I made, they would deduct off the $950.
Right.
So then it was like, well, I can't work because I'm also paying daycare, and it just became a real circle of no end. And when I complained to income assistance, they told me to go to the food bank. So
and
then that led me to that step. And it doesn't happen overnight. I kept trying to prevent it. I kept trying to figure out anything I could do to not take that next step, because I didn't want to. I wanted to be able to support and provide for my kids.
And part of it's just embarrassing.
It is.
I know we shouldn't be embarrassed because it can happen to any one of us, but the stigma, the idea, and the blame, and the guilt.
And all of that. And so my first day that I went to the food bank, I remember standing in line there, and everybody around me was foreign to me. Everything around me. I didn't know these people. I felt fearful because I was totally out of my element. And I remember just standing there and just looking down and staring at the ground. And as the line moved forward, I just kept moving. And I knew in my head I had to keep moving. I had to keep taking that next step because there was nothing at home. If I didn't do that, you know, I had to.
Yeah.
I moved forward, got there, and you know, I was met with a real friendly face at the food bank. And she's like, you know, I have to register you. How many kids do you have? Simple questions like that. And I filled all that out, and they just kind of move you along, and it's like, okay, and here, gave me bags of groceries and told me I could, you know, pick from the bread. And so I picked all the different bread and buns and stuff like that. And I mean, I was so thankful. I was looking at these cans of tomato soup and, you know, and boxes of stuff, and it was like, oh boy, do I ever need that, right? So I was, inside, I was very happy as well.
Right.
But very nervous and just
and how
sad.
old were your boys then?
At that point, they would have been 5, 7, 8, and 9.
So little.
Yeah.
And dealing with them.
Yeah. And
I know I have a friend who used to.
I didn't bring them the first time.
Okay.
To the food bank because I didn't want them to feel that. I did it on my own.
Mm-hmm. And then did you take them?
And then I did take them over the years. Yeah. And but that first day was so emotional for me. As I moved through the line and got the different food products and stuff, the one lady turned to me and she says to me, she says, today's a great day. She says, we got these fresh cakes from the bakery, and I was just wondering if you would like one. And I was so overwhelmed because that day was actually July 10th, which is my oldest son's birthday. And it was so moving, and it was like it was meant to be that all of a sudden this
Little
cake
kismet.
would appear.
Here's a cake, here's a birthday,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you believe in signs, but I think that's a good sign.
It was.
Like the universe is delivering, or someone's delivering, the food bank's
Yeah.
delivering,
With
but
all-
it's a blessing.
Yeah, with all what I'd been through, is like I was still happy for that. I was still did feel blessed that I was able to go home and present that cake to my son and make it like it's a real birthday.
Yeah. I had a friend who was in the States, and she was on food stamps, and every time she'd go to the store to use the food stamp, she'd cry.
Yeah.
So the clerk saying, it's going to be okay, you know, so it was kind of like the clerk therapist, and then she'd tell us, and then we'd cry. It's like, you know,
and
how
I
it
cried
was.
a lot,
I bet
almost
you
every
did.
week.
Yeah.
The first week, my chest was just heaving as I drove home. I was so upset. But you know, you get used to it.
And in the lineup, when you're standing in the lineup at the food bank, by the grace of, I've never had to do that, but do other people talk to you about their plight, their issues? Do you bond at all, or is everybody pretty much in their own zone?
Everybody's in their own zone, yeah. And some people would talk to each other, but I would assume that maybe they knew each other.
Right, from before.
Yeah, but they're kind of all in their own zone in one way. Over the years, and I think maybe that first time I felt very isolated and alone. But over the years of going and using the food bank, you know, you started to find humor, and you would talk to the other clients. And
humor does help in the dire straits. A little bit.
Yeah,
it doesn't pay the bills, but it does get you through a little bit. Carmel Joy, our guest, and her story gets happier. Trust me. We'll come back.